Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Superman issue 20 by Joshua Williamson, Dan Mora and Alejandro Sanchez. Doomsday's rampage on Earth continues as Time Trapper, who at the end of the last issue was revealed to be a version of Doomsday from the end of the universe, has come back in time to look for the help of Superman. Regaling the Man of Steel with their shared history, along with little tidbits Superman doesn't know, like how the Legion of Infinite Worlds killed Doomsday last. However, Doomsday never stays dead for long. I really like how this articulate Doomsday has more depth than just the big violent Doomsday, of course. I really like that he recognizes himself as like entropy personified, he is, just death and destruction. And Superman is the opposite of that. Superman's the other side of that coin. He's life personified, and that's what draws them to each other. They're opposite ends of the spectrum, and when these two things meet together, chaos ensues. Time Trapper reveals that if he dies one more time, he will become a literal god and could break the cycle and rule over eternity instead of destroying it, and he wants Superman to kill him so he may achieve this role. Superman, of course, asks the most logical question: why did he come to him now in this timeline on this specific date? And Trapper reveals that at this point in time, some great tragedy will befall Superman and he will be tested like he has never been tested before. There is some really wild little potential setups here, the biggest being that Williamson teases the return of Zod and it costing Superman his right eye. I love little setups like this since this isn't something that's concrete, this is something that could maybe happen, and this is like Williamson kind of floating these ideas out there that, hey, maybe we'll see them, maybe we won't, depending on if Superman succeeds in his mission and the timeline by the end of this story is changed for what Doomsday will become, and maybe that will change what will happen after that. The possibility of those things maybe happening is what kind of excites me, and it keeps me guessing, like, will it, won't it, will it happen at some point later on in the history or earlier? Who knows, and I'm very excited to find out. Time Trapper reveals that Superman's allies will not survive what is to come, and this angers the hero, but the villain proves that he is even stronger than he was when he was Doomsday, snatching Superman out of the air like he is nothing and tossing him to the ground. Trapper takes his leave, knowing that the next time they meet, Superman will definitely agree to help him, or everyone he loves will die. He leaves Superman with one warning: time is of the essence, and Williamson lets Dan Mora loose on this next sequence as Trapper's time dilation begins to wear down after his exit, and Superman realizes that Lois is about to fight Doomsday alone since he was taken away from their battle last issue. So Superman speeds around the Earth once to deliver a devastating punch to Doomsday before Lois can even get in contact with the villain. Mora's art and the way he paces time regaining normal speed over a whole page panel by panel is just so great. It just ratchets up the tension, like, is Superman gonna make it little by little before you flip to the 2-pager and this awesome double page spread punch where Superman is literally heard around the world punching this villain. While Superman's punch staggers Doomsday, he finds out the fire around the villain is magical hellfire and it can burn him and Lois, being that it's magical. Doomsday returns, and as Superwoman deals with the Doomhounds, Mercy and Supercorp rush to activate Project Deadbeat, something we haven't actually heard of before but will end up being very familiar later on in the book. Superman refuses to let her do that, and although Superman trusts her, she's already on the move, as Steelworks and John Henry's response robots, which actually got a really neat little backup in Action Comics and the Superman books earlier on in the year, end up making an appearance to help save the people in the immediate area of the battle. Lex finally gets a moment to shine, as well as while he was out on his introspective walk around the city, the battle erupted and he springs into action and tries to help save a child. Superman is able to give him a hand, holding up a building so he can get the child to safety at the cost of his own defense. It's been so fun getting the heroic Lex again, and like a pure heroic Lex. He's not doing this just out of praise or, glory. This is like a Lex who doesn't remember anything about who he was and just wants to be a good guy. Last issue we saw that he couldn't believe that he would ever actually be the Lex who was like fighting Superman in a war suit or anything, and he was kind of like terrified at that. So I like that here we get to see him just acting on instinct and helping people. I do wish we would get more of it in these issues, since it's just like like a light sprinkling throughout the issues, and granted there are more pressing matters to deal with Doomsday and the Time Trapper storyline, but his story is just so compelling and interesting that I just wish we got just a little bit more. Lois helps out her husband with the building and is burned by the hellfire in the process, causing Superman to openly attack the villain. As the fight gets more and more out of control, the Justice League's heavy hitter team wait for deployment, but Mercy tells them to hold back as they have a plan to deal with Doomsday. Mercy arrives above the battle in that really cool Superman symbol ship she had in some earlier issues, and along with some cool armored super soldiers, they drop Parasite onto the battlefield, revealing that he is actually Project Deadbeat, which is kind of a funny name for Rudy Jones to have. Williamson has done a great job with all the various Supercorp lore and setting up the development of characters like Rudy Jones into bona fide heroes, and it's been really satisfying to see his through line throughout all of these issues. Parasite is dropped onto Doomsday and he begins to consume his energy, unable to stop feasting on the villain's unlimited buffet of power. Superman warns him, but it's too late as Doomsday evolves to combat Parasite's absorption powers, grabbing Rudy and violently tearing him in half, killing the Parasite. This was genuinely a shocking revelation since it's all done on page in full view, not in, they usually, to hide sort of really heavy gore or something, there's usually like a silhouette, you only see like the outline of the characters, like, and then just like the rip is done with like the visual of sound effects and stuff like that. But here it's just done out in the open by Dan Mora, and it's really gory, and especially for a Superman book, it's not something I really expected, but it does a good job of selling like the stakes. Like even Parasite, someone who was meant to be able to take all of this villain's power, is no match for him. Seeing Rudy dead makes Superman fly into a rage, causing his red levels to spike as he beats Doomsday to a pulp. It was really surprising to see the rage actually take a hold of Superman, and this is something that's gone on from the Graft Farm storyline where they infected Superman with a virus and it kind of messed with his power levels. So I like that they're still playing with that idea that it's still there under the surface, but Superman never really taps into anger all that much, so you never really get to see it. So when it appears here and he's kind of losing control of himself, it gets a little scary, like, oh my god, is it gonna like take over Superman? Is he gonna be okay? And I like that that's sort of a hint here, is that, oh, maybe that's probably going to happen at some point in the next couple of issues. I imagine Williamson wouldn't have brought it back up if it wasn't going to come back up in some big way later down the line. As the super soldiers come in and inject Doomsday with Black Mercy venom to subdue him, Superman manages to calm himself down enough to see what has become of the city during their fight, and what has become of his friend Rudy. Mercy and her men collect Doomsday and imprison him for transport to Supercorp, and I like that they allude that the Black Mercy venom will not last long, as he'll like fight his way out of the daze that it puts him in, and it will eventually, he'll just get free again because he can just evolve and he will grow a tolerance to the venom. So I am intrigued to see how they're going to like hold him. Like, are they just going to blast him into space again, a phantom zone? Like, how do you hold Doomsday if he can just now evolve to anything, and he has hellfire powers now as well? Lois takes the weakened and injured Superman from the area before anyone can get a picture of Superwoman. And I like that this is still a running storyline where Lois can't let anyone take a picture of her or like identify her, since they'll figure out who she is, and Jimmy is still on the case despite Lois telling him to drop it. Jimmy is getting close though to figuring out what's going on, as Supercorp is helping shield Superwoman's identity by having all images and videos and things removed of the Doomsday attack from social media and the internet in general. So I like that he's starting to piece together like, oh, something fishy's going on at Supercorp, I wonder if Superman knows that. And I like that Lois is just constantly trying to throw him off the scent and telling him, you know, go do something else. Well, she's not going to be in for a little while because she's actually injured from the fight with Doomsday. There is like a really neat little sequence here where Lois and Clark kind of like tend to each other's wounds, and they have kind of a moment between each other because obviously Lois is now on Superman's level, so she can like take, you know, a beating and still, you know, get back up, but Clark doesn't see it like that. But I do like that he does mention that he understands that Lois is, you know, not a woman to underestimate and not someone to trifle with, but he still worries because he still cares for her. And I like that he's stuck in this position where like, yeah, now she can take care of herself, but he still has to worry about her. Not only that, but he's really worried about what Time Trapper told him and what he was saying about like his friends and family being hurt, some type of terrible tragedy happening, and what is scarier than Doomsday? We soon find out what might actually be scarier than Doomsday, as elsewhere on Calaton, a being dons a mask similar to Doomsday's containment suit, vowing to get revenge on the creature, no matter the cost. A Calaton reveal was actually very surprising to me, since it's a very big connection to the Hunter-Prey book, a book I don't particularly like. Calaton was the planet Doomsday tore apart for I think 3 or 4 years in that book. He was like trapped there, and he destroyed everything except one city or one small town, and the hero of the planet, the Radiant, ended up defeating Doomsday, and that's where they like kind of trapped him and he was hurled back to Earth. I assume that's what this being is here. I assume this is the Radiant or something related to that. I imagine that's going to be coming back because this is Calaton and the Radiant is directly related to that. And maybe this is my time to revisit Hunter-Prey, since it's been a while, and I just remember not really liking it, since it felt like a cash grab. It felt like they were just trying to do more of the same with Doomsday, trying to get blood from stone that had already been very well dried up, and it just felt like they were trying to cash in on the Doomsday craze, because I think it came out like a year after the death of Superman, so it wasn't really that far after. But hey, maybe a revisit is in order. Superman issue 20 was filled with a brilliantly set out action from Dan Mora, who just shined throughout this entire issue with some fantastic tension-filled sequences. Between these awesome set pieces though, Joshua Williamson fills us in on Time Trapper's mission and how Superman factors into it in some really surprising ways, tie back to Doomsday's origins and the Hunter-Prey storyline from the mid-90s. I'm very excited to see where Williamson takes the story as we head on into 2025. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.